All right, so I wanted to go over a new system. It's not new, but a different way to do body work. Some of you guys saw this car when I was doing the initial stripping. I did a video on how to strip the fast and easy way, and showed a bunch of demo on that, so you guys can learn how to strip your car faster, because some people are having trouble with that. And then if you didn't recall, we actually used epoxy primer on this car, and the reason you do that typically is because your car is going to sit outside for a period of time or be in the weather, and the epoxy primer has a sealer in it as well as primer. So for a period of time, I'm not going to say how long. It all depends on how much and how long it's going to set outside or in the weather, and how much weather you have and that sort of thing. That's going to be up to you to determine. But this case, it was actually outside for about 8 months, and the primer was actually starting to oxidize pretty heavily, but it still did its job, and it held out the moisture, because where I sanded through, there was absolutely no rust. So that's really what the epoxy primer is for you guys who are doing long-term projects and stuff like that. And that's what the design of it is. When you just hit metal, you can use the DTM urethane, and that is fine too, or some of the other products out there. In my other videos that I use a lot of that polyester primer as well, because it has a better fill depending on the type of surface you're going over and what you're going over. Some guys don't like that because they say that it cracks, because it's kind of a brittle primer. It doesn't have a lot of flexibility, but it doesn't, and that this is another way to do it. So if you're looking at that, maybe you don't like that way to do it, or maybe this way here works out better for you. Maybe your situation is a little bit different. So what we're doing now on this car is, I've been working my way around. We've pretty much got, here is the urethane primer. This is the epoxy primer still. It looks the same. But we've already got all the body work done all the way around. And how we did that is we're using a different type of filler. Now they have these fillers, different brands, but you really gotta be careful and read the label, because a lot of them will say on the label in the can that it can be put over epoxy primer, but if you look at the data sheets, it'll say it's not designed, it's designed to go over bare metal. So this one here on the data sheets says that it's designed for bare metal, and I believe Rage is in the same category, but I'm not sure. Just one second, let me show you so this product right here, lightweight grip filler from USC, is actually designed to go over epoxy primer, metal, or even wood. Here's the part number if you're looking for it, 17005. That's what they usually go by. If you call a paint store, they may not know what AG47 is, but they usually know what that part number is right there. So if you don't really recall, what I did is, at that point when we got it stripped, of course after you strip it, you're gonna have to sand it a little bit. We were just using a polisher, a sander, sort of like one of these type of things here, but not without a grinder disc on it, a sander, and slow speed polisher, and sand and feather everything. Then I went through and just de-ate it down real quick. Then I found the dents, ground those areas, filled those real quick, and just kind of roughed them in, okay, and then went ahead and hit it with epoxy primer over the filler. You can do it underneath or over, depending on what you want to do. If you have deeper fills, I would highly recommend going to bare metal. Just a little bit more adhesion to the bare metal than the epoxy primer. So what we did is we went ahead and do our deep fills with that. Then we came back, epoxy primered over that, and now we're at the guide coat stage, and we go ahead and sand down our guide coat, and then any additional filling that we have, and we're going to go ahead and use the AG47, and you go ahead and put that. You can put that over the epoxy primer, but make sure that you sand it with the specified grit, and I believe it's 80 grit is what I'm using, but I think it says 100 to, I don't know, read the specs, okay? Just make sure you stay in where it's supposed to be. It has really good adhesion. It sticks, it sands super easy. But like I said, the stuff I did underneath, we sanded the filler basically with a polisher, which is really fast. You can do a deep fill and just sand it right off with about any filler you want, the cheaper filler, and then we use this for like almost like a what's it called? Almost like a polyester glazing, but it sands way faster. It sounds almost like drywall mud. So that now we're going ahead and so we're on our last couple panels. We got this panel here to do. We got the 2 fenders in the front. Actually, I think I got one more fender in the front to do, and then we're going to be ready to start jamming this thing. So anyway, but that's a little shortcut way to do it. It just depends on your situation. You know, if you're going to have to use epoxy primer, then it might be a good idea to use the other. But if, like I say, if you weren't, like, if this car wasn't going to sit outside, there really wouldn't be any need for me to use epoxy primer. So I'd probably use a different filler, maybe, or, you know, I don't know. It all depends. So that's just another way to do it if you run a long-term project. And another, you know, there's tons of different ways to do stuff. So there's never just one way to do it. So anyway, but just make sure that whole idea is, if it says it on the label of the can, and not if it's on the data sheets and on the can, and it says on it that you can put it on primer, you know, in the specified primer, or, you know, original paint sanded, then you can do it. But if it says not to do that, or if you look at the data sheets, I always look at the data sheets as well as the can. So both things are going to say that it's okay to put it on over original paint or sanded. You know, you could put it on a second coat of paint as long as the first coat of paint's adhered and it's done right, you know, but you don't really know that. So, but I'm just saying that, you know, you just have to be really careful when you do that. So anyway, that's just another way to do your body work and move forward with your project. Of course, this took us about half as much time as the last one because of the way we did it. So, all right, talk to you in the next video.